Okay, ladies and gents, boys and girls, what's going on? Thursday, October the 13th, 2022. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. Appreciate you all tuning in. We have got a packed show, lots to get into. Taking your questions, your comments, and your calls at 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. I see Brendan, Justin, Nick, Travis Lee, Justin Langford, Lance, DGD, Alan Vaughn, Travis, Stephen Morwell Jr., Connor Lee, Noah Johns, Todd Smith, Chuck, Chase. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, have the TDC Questions channel. The TDC Questions channel, be sure your questions are answered there. I want to first say thank you to JC Sherbert and Phil Molinax for having me on Inside the Gamecocks. We just talked some South Carolina football on their airwaves. And we will have JC, of course, on the show today at 1:15. Really excited to talk the Gamecocks' big win in Kentucky with JC, and we'll also talk a little bit about the bye week and look a little bit ahead to the Texas A&M matchup and what that means and all that good stuff. Anyways, guys, appreciate it. You all tuning in, of course. The Daily Crow brought to you by our friends, as always, over at Prize Picks. Go download the Prize Picks app. Go to prizepicks.com. When you do, use the promo code TSUS. You're going to receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Guys, you bet on spreads, you bet on totals, you bet on futures. Why not bet on the prop plays as well through our friends over at Prize Picks? So many folks that tune in the Spurs Up Show, that tune into TDC, are making tons of money with our friends at Prize Picks. Again, download the app, go to prizepicks.com. When you sign up, use the promo code TSUS. You're going to receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Be sure to check them out and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. Okay, phone lines are now officially open. Phone lines are open, 843-790-3377. We had somebody text in, hey, got a question for the show. You can also text the number if you'd like or comment via social media. Connor Lee says, after watching the basketball pressures yesterday, I'm so excited to see what we look like under Lamont. I know it's football season right now, but still. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's football, but I'm counting down 20 days. 20 days until Gamecocks basketball gets rolling. I'm excited too. Listen, I love all the sports. I know it's football season, but I love all the sports and pumped to start watching basketball. I mean, guys, before you know it, South Carolina actually plays Clemson the night before the Florida game. So literally in a month, because that game's on November the 12th, in a month, the Gamecocks will take on Clemson in basketball. So going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for basketball in, 2 weeks or so. In about 2.5 weeks, we'll officially drop a basketball season preview show, right? I will preview the season, predict the season, break it all down, all that good stuff. So, yeah, going to be a lot of fun. And that's really when the content, when it's content bleeding out the eyeballs, because you got multiple sports going on and multiple things to discuss and talk about. And it's a lot of fun for sure. Anyways, guys. Yes, chop on. You see the hat? Chop on. Braves get the dub last night. How about the Bravos? Bravos got the dub. Love to see it. Lance says, the Roach King has followed me. It's time for lattes with the Roach. Yeah, he's actually going to be in town for a couple of games, Lance. We'll have to get him about the tailgate. Also, those tuned into the podcast version, of course, now the Daily Crow is being distributed on the Spurs Up Show podcast feed, and the reception from you all and from those who have reached out has been nothing but positive. It's been nothing but positive. Folks saying, hey, I love that it's right here on this feed. It's easy to find. I don't have to go searching for it. So, hey, those who are tuned in that didn't normally tune into the podcast version, welcome. And I appreciate you all tuning in as well, because you are supporting the Spurs Up Show. Again, guys, the podcast is now monetized. So every time you tune in, you are supporting the business. And I can't say thank you enough. Jay Morris, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in. We got a text here. Our guy, Caden. Caden says, I've been meaning to ask, what do you think about Kentucky still being ranked above us in the AP poll and the SEC power rankings? We both have the same record. Our only losses are number 2, Georgia and Arkansas. We've also beaten them head-to-head. Wanted to get your thoughts on that. I think folks are giving Kentucky, whether you like it or dislike it, I think folks are giving Kentucky the benefit of the doubt because they didn't have Will Levis. I think that goes to show that people think if Will Levis played, that Kentucky would have beaten South Carolina. And listen, I'm not going to, and that was Okay, yeah, that was Caden. But, we're not going to play the hypothetical game here in that sense because there's just no point. So, would Kentucky have beaten South Carolina with Will Levis? I don't know. Who gives a damn? I mean, they're not going to drop them outside of the top 25. And they're not, and they shouldn't put us in the top 25, right? Just for beating Kentucky. Now, you beat Texas A&M. I saw somebody with a question a little bit earlier. If you beat Texas A&M, you're in the top 25. I think that's fair. I think that's fair, but we'll see. We'll see. I just think you got to show some consistency. I think you've got to show some consistency. I see Bree commenting, by the way, talking about, told you almost 3 weeks ago we'd push them around on the line of scrimmage, and y'all did call me crazy. And Lady Bree, I stand by that. I stand by calling you crazy for saying that at that point. Again, I just talked about it with JC on the show, on his show. Kudos to the offensive line. But yeah, if you'd have told me that 3 weeks ago that we would have outrushed Kentucky, I would have said you were crazy. Again, I also pat the offensive line on the back and say kudos for doing something you had not done against a competent opponent to this point this season. But both can be true. I mean, I still think, I was thoroughly impressed. And, the greatest positive for the O-line coming out of that game is they've improved week to week. And again, I say tip of the cap, job well done. But, here's the thing I think people, Bree and others, probably need to understand is like, when you make picks and you make predictions, and I make every pick, prediction, opinion, whatever, with under the disclaimer that I can change my mind, Lady Bree and others. I can change my mind, right? Just because you make an opinion and you have a take in week 2, that doesn't mean that has to be your take in week 6. In week 2, the offensive line was dog shit. In week 3, the offensive line was dog shit. I'm just happy that the offensive line has improved. They have improved. They used Charlotte and SC State to find some continuity, to gel, to work together, and it paid off against Kentucky. But yeah, I mean, this is a football team that has improved, and that includes the offensive line. So, what they did against Kentucky, it should be applauded because it's much different than what they did early on in the season. So, yeah. Anyways, I may not be an offensive line coach, Lady Bree, but I'm also not a chef, but I can tell you if the food tastes like shit or not. So, the offensive line was pretty rough early on. It was pretty rough. Yeah, Georgia State still stands out in my mind very vividly. So, for us to go on the road and outrush Kentucky, I'm thoroughly impressed. Dre says, y'all can hate me for this, but we don't deserve to be ranked. Dre, I don't think anybody should hate you for that. I think that's a very fair take. I think just because you beat a vastly overrated Kentucky team without their quarterback doesn't mean you should be a top 25 team. Like, show some consistency. I think if you beat A&M, then I can see it. That's fine with me. But yeah, just one win over Kentucky. You need to see one more, right? You need to see South Carolina now follow that win up. That's what you need to see. So, I don't know. Yeah, the offensive line was rough the first 3 weeks. I'm not trying to pile on them. I said what I said early on in the season. I'm just glad to see that they proved me wrong and at least improved. I'm not saying they're not going to be a strength necessarily. I mean, they're solid, though. The offensive line, I am honestly surprised at this point how solid they are. After what we saw early, I'm impressed and surprised. We'll see if it continues. A lot of football left. But, that was impressive what they did against Kentucky. It really was. And it's something that, again, I would have bet good money on that Carolina would not outrush Kentucky. I mean, I think I said it the week of the Kentucky game or the week of or the day after you beat SC State that, we're going to go to Kentucky, rush for 68 yards, 3.2 yards per carry, and kind of do our standard song and dance and be done with it. And I'm just glad to be proven wrong. I'm very glad. Again, I just want to see us win. I don't want to be right. Let's see. Roy Gwynn, if we beat A&M, it won't be like Kentucky sloppy. We'll have to play good football, and then we should be ranked. Yeah, we'll talk a lot more about A&M next week, but I don't think A&M's a great team by any means. I think that's a very winnable game. They've got their issues with the quarterback. So I think it's an extremely winnable game. So let's see. Matt Sellers, I believe Greg Atkins was out. It has been God, what's his name? What's the guy? What's the guy coaching the O-line now? I don't know. Either way, Greg Atkins has been out. Yeah, he was not there in Lexington. So we'll see what comes of that. I don't know. I think, outside of football, second straight year that Greg Atkins has to deal with health issues. Maybe the writing's on the wall for him, but the O-line's played better. The O-line's played better, no doubt. The O-line's played better. So let's see. Jesse Jacobs says A&M would be a great win, but with their third string in, we really don't know how much after the game either. I don't think people realize how much losing a quarterback can affect all aspects. Yeah, I mean, Jesse, listen, I don't think South Carolina should be crowned as SEC champions because they beat Kentucky, but it was a great win. It was a great win. Go on the road, physically impose your will on a team. I'm taking nothing away, but yeah, now you got to follow up on it. So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it is wild, Dre, how God, I mean, I get DMs about it constantly about you got to block this Clemson fan from the Spurs Up Show Facebook page. You got to block this guy. And I'm like, I mean, guys, you can't just block everybody. Like, I mean, people have the freedom on social media to comment on whatever they want or go to whatever site they want. But it is crazy. It is crazy how on Facebook, I know I talked about this a little bit yesterday, how on Facebook, though, folks, how we have so many rival fans comment on our Facebook page. Again, guys, would love to hear from you calling in. We'd love to hear y'all calling in. So, Lady Bree says, main difference first half and second half was Spencer Rattler's execution. I mean, I think overall execution for sure got better. Yeah, perimeter blocking I thought was really good, or much better, the best we've seen it all season. I thought the play call again to Jalen Brooks was one of the best play calls of the season. Thing of beauty. Those plays are a thing of beauty when they work. They're a thing of beauty when they work. They are abysmal and they're ugly when they don't. Right? Think of Kentucky, the first play versus us running a reverse. So, listen, whether you want to blame, we're halfway through the season. And you got people like Bree that think the offensive line's been elite since week one. You got other people that think Satterfield sucks. You got other people that think Spencer Rattler sucks. You got other people that think the receivers suck. I don't give a damn really who you want to spread blame to. At the halfway point of the season, I'll talk much more about it on the podcast on Monday when I do my grades and stuff like that. Now the question just for me turns into, can you build off that second half at Kentucky? Right? Can you build off that second half at Kentucky? Everything's got to get better. So, I look at, again, the offensive line has made strides. The offensive line's made strides, and everything else got to come along. So, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you asking. What's up?
Man. Sucks there's no football this weekend, man. Go on the road and you win like that. Just itching to see some more.
Man, there's plenty of football, man. There's plenty of SEC football. I know there's not Gamecocks, but
yeah, you're right. Yep. No, I just want to call in and talk about it. I guess what myself and most Gamecock fans want to see now is, can you keep consistent? And it's just, that's always kind of been our Achilles heel, so to speak, is can you keep consistent? And I mean, you got a great opportunity coming up to do that against A&M. I tell you, it's really what I want to see, some consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, do you go in there and you just bomb, or do you, do you Carolina, so to speak? Because my God, we've done it in the past. Winning crazy wild games like that, and just you come in the next week and you look like a different team. I hope there's consistency.
Yeah, no, for sure. Listen, I think that all fans, we all want to see the same thing, man. A team just go out, look like it has a plan, and improves week to week. I mean, that's literally it. So it'll be interesting. Again, I'll talk a lot more about the A&M game next week, but I think A&M, certainly, they're a very talented football team. They're a flawed football team, but they're a very talented football team, right? So I don't think it's just some
Well,
gimme that Carolina is going to win this game, and it's
right.
going to be a very close, competitive game, no doubt. But
well, they're a lot on they're a lot on the same level as we are. I mean, you got a lot of talent, and just
right. I mean, like I mentioned, the next 4 opponents, I think, maybe not so much Vandy. The next 4 opponents, you've got your elite teams in the SEC, Georgia, Bama. Then you got Tennessee, I think, is up there. Whether you like it or not, they're up there now. And then everybody else is just sort of just anybody can beat anybody on any given Saturday. So I think Carolina could beat A&M. I think they could certainly lose to A&M. That's the beauty of it. Kind of, it's one of those toss-up games. So, if you're facing QB3 for them, I know he's a 5-star, but taking advantage of that game plan will be sort of similar to Kentucky in the sense of getting after a young quarterback. Their defense is a lot better than Kentucky's. So, I think the number one thing, obviously, coming out of the bye week and going in the second half is we just got to see the offense continue to make strides or just make strides in general. Because, I mean, I think you can look at that Kentucky game critically and say that, I mean, it's great to have gotten the win. It's great to have gotten the win. It feels good to be good, right? But the offense certainly
you didn't beat a great.
Yeah, Kentucky's not a great team.
Right.
I mean, I said all week they were frauds. They were overrated. Right. I mean, I said they were frauds all week. Right. So, I mean, I wouldn't have said that about Georgia, right? I think Kentucky's still a fraud. Yeah. I think with Will Levis, they're overrated. I think without him, they're trash. I think they're – and I'm not trying to take anything away from Carolina, but that's just an honest assessment of the Kentucky Wildcats. They're just not very good without him especially.
Right.
Now, with him, they're probably a 7, maybe an 8-win team, but without him, it's pretty rough. So, I think let me put it this way. I think the win over Kentucky is a great win, not so much because, you showed you're a top 10 team or you're a top 15 team. It's just a great win because you went into Lexington and did something that you have not done in recent memory. South Carolina hasn't gone on the road and dominated an opponent a whole lot, right? It just hasn't happened. Yeah. So the fact that you nixed a negative trend, that to me, that's my bigger takeaway from it. You know what I mean? That is
kind of been our
they've
kind of been our kryptonite for how many years.
And like you mentioned, you need to do more of that because you got a lot of negative streaks and trends to break in the second half of the season. I mean, I posted about it this morning, but
especially A&M.
Yeah, you've got an 8-game losing streak to A&M. You never beaten them. You got a 3-game losing streak to Mizzou. You've got a 3-game losing streak to Tennessee, and you got a 7-game losing streak to Clemson. So you got a lot of streaks on the line. In the second half of the year.
I was in Columbia. 8 years ago when Texas A&M joined the SEC, and we came in ranked. I don't even know. It was top 10, and they beat the dog shit out of us on a Thursday night.
Yeah,
I remember that, and we gotta break that streak. We gotta win. We gotta win that game. I look at that as one of the gotta wins. I mean.
Yeah,
I don't know about you, but that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I said it over the summer that Mizzou is the must-win game of the year because here's the thing: we all want to beat A&M. It's a huge game, but if you lose to A&M and you beat Mizzou and Vandy, your season's still you're golden. You're 6-3 going to your final 3. Dude, if you lose to Mizzou, it's like losing to Kentucky. I mean, it's just inexcusable. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just if you're trying to be on the up and up as a program. That's the streak you got to end in my mind. But certainly, man, it's hard to stomach having an 8-game losing streak against anybody. I don't give a damn who it is. So, I mean, that's one certainly. And you feel like, too, I think there's a lot of pressure, or there's just some pressure on this one because you feel like this is by far your best opportunity to beat Texas A&M. I mean, they're extremely flawed. Could be on QB3.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great – you got them at home at night. It's like if you don't beat them this year, I mean, it's there for the taking. It's there for the taking. So
it is. Well, I won't be there for Texas A&M, but I will be at the Mizzou game. So
nice.
Stop by and see you and say hello.
Very good.
All right, well, I'm gonna jump off here. Let somebody else talk. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you. Thanks so much for the call.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Yep, great stuff. 843-790-3377. Here on this Thursday. Chase in the TDC Question channel says Mississippi State's going to smack Kentucky on Saturday. Their season will be over this weekend. I tend to agree with you. I don't know about season being over, but I'm on State -6.5. I think it is. Yeah, I think State's going to smack Kentucky, bro. I don't know. I know it's in Lexington, and you think Kentucky's really got their backs against the wall, but I don't see anything. I don't see anything that tells me that. So let's jump to
Call
the
from
Hunter.
Hunter, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, not too bad. Just on lunch break, just ready to get off.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah. So I do have a question. For this weekend, for after this weekend, do you think we'll be ranked at all since we haven't played this weekend, or?
No, they're not going to rank us over the bye week. I mean, we're 32nd, I think, in the AP or the coaches, and 35th in the other one. There ain't no way we're going to jump 10 spots by not playing. I can assure you. So if we go out and beat,
for sure, if we beat Texas A&M, then we should be in the top 25.
I mean, you would think so. You would think so. I mean, I guess technically, my friend, if the top 25 teams all win, then we wouldn't get in, right? I mean, that's probably not going to happen, but technically. So, I just look at it this way, man. You keep winning, you'll get ranked. I mean, I know we all want to be ranked. It's cool seeing the number next to your team and everything. So, I mean, listen, if you go out and you beat Texas A&M by 2 touchdowns and you look impressive, then yeah, I think South Carolina should be ranked. Yes. So I can't say for certain. I can't guarantee it, but I think you should be ranked if that happens.
Like I said in the chat a while ago, we still can't go 10-2. I mean, it's 4-2 right now. I mean, it's very possible.
Oh yeah, 10-2, man. And pigs will fly.
10-2.
Yeah. Hey, Beamer Ball Asstat still in play. Beamer Ball Asstat still in play.
Yeah, I actually did want to buy some. I'm probably actually buy one this weekend because I'm going to the Carolina-Tennessee game with my sister's husband. So
awesome, dude. There's a lot of people going to that Carolina-Tennessee game. So that's that's going to be a heck of a night. A&M's going to be incredible. So that'll be awesome, man.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome. I appreciate you.
And especially this weekend, I forgot to say I'm going to the Florida and LSU game. I don't know if you got any tips of like what I should not wear because it's the first time I'm going to a college football game.
Wow. First time going to a college football game, Florida LSU in the swamp. Wow.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Probably just wear something neutral unless you want to dress in Gators or LSU colors. I don't know. So, or you could just wear your Gamecock stuff and say to hell with it.
I'm kind of nervous. I've never been around with that many people.
Yeah, wear your Gamecock stuff and say to hell with it. Why not?
Oh yeah, hell with it. Screw it. But yeah, that's all I got to say. I guess I'll have to get back to work. So I guess I'll watch you tomorrow.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
No problem, man. Take it easy.
Hunter, appreciate you calling in. Hey, we've had a call a couple of times from Hilton Head. Guys left a couple of voicemails. If you want to call back in, I think Paul from Bluffton, I think that's who it is, because he did leave a voicemail. If you'd like to call back in, my guy, phone lines are now open. I apologize for not getting you on earlier. You know, everybody's saying, let's do a whiteout, let's do a blackout, let's do a garnet out. Why don't we do a Beamer Ball out? Everybody in the stands rocking Beamer Ball. Everybody in the stands has a Beamer Ball towel. It's just an idea. Just an idea. Why not? The Beamer Ball out. Would be cool. Would also be very good for business. TSUS to the moon. Beamer Ball to the moon. Oh, man. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. We've been having a lot of fun on social media this morning, by the way. Just, over the bye week, it's a fun time to talk about some different topics. And like I mentioned, guys, in case you didn't realize, Carolina's streaks right now, losses, 8 in a row to A&M, which is so interesting, by the way. The only team South Carolina does not have some sort of streak against in these final 6 games is Florida, right? Is Florida. That's the only one because you beat them last year and they beat you in 2020. Vanderbilt, you've won 13 in a row. So you have, you've lost 8 in a row to A&M, lost 3 in a row to Mizzou, beaten Vandy 13 in a row, then Florida, You've lost to Tennessee 3 in a row and then lost to Clemson 7 in a row. So, like, there are streaks in every game except one. Kind of wild. Kind of wild to see that, right? Like, how many games you have streaks in. And I also posed this question. I'll pose it here to you guys. With 21 hours left in the poll, it's only been up for 3 hours. It's so funny that I've had people say, this is a no-brainer. Why even throw this poll up? Well, it's obviously very highly debated. I said, which streak does South Carolina need to end more? 8 straight losses against Texas A&M or 7 straight losses to Clemson? Which streak needs to get snapped more? And I think the answer to this is really, I think the beauty of this question, I don't think there is a right or wrong answer. I think it really just comes down to your preference. You know, I say that because I'm not going to come down on you no matter your answer, right? I think they're both important to snap. I think for the sanity of the fan base, beating Clemson is the one you need. But I think for SEC, right, it kind of goes back to the the Steve Spurrier mentality that you take care of your business in SEC play, the rivalry takes care of itself, right? But I think obviously there are some fans that live and die by that Carolina Clemson game. And my God, if you do, you've had a really rough stretch of years since 2013. But there are some people that live and die by that game and that desperately they want more than anything. They would take a 1-11 season if it meant we beat Clemson. So if you view it from that scope, then I think your viewpoint's going to be a little bit swayed. You know what I mean? It's going to be a little bit swayed. But there are important reasons to end both streaks. You know, A&M, you look at that game, you just don't want to have an 8-game losing streak, could be 9. You don't want to have a streak like that against anybody. You know what I mean? And again, as Spurrier said, you take care of your business in the conference because the goal is to win the conference. You've beaten Clemson before. You've beaten them. It's been a long time, but you've beaten them before. You've never beaten Texas A&M. That's a monkey you need to get off your back, right? If you're trying to move up the SEC hierarchy, right? That's a game you need to win. You need to snap that streak. And then on the flip side, again, the Clemson thing. I mean, that's just one that I think, you know, I see your comments. I see Travis Lee. I don't have to live beside Texas A&M fans. See, I've got a different vantage point, too, because I don't have Clemson friends. I just don't, bro. I don't associate with any folk in my life that are Clemson people. I don't. So I don't have this, God, we need to win because, you know, I just can't stand my coworker. I can't stand my neighbor. Like, I don't have that issue. I really don't. So, but it's a big game, obviously, man, what it means for the state. And, you know, that's one that it's so interesting how it can sway the opinion of your season, right? We go 7-5 this year, but beat Clemson in our final game. I mean, the whole viewpoint of the season is different. Travis Lee says, I didn't choose my neighbor. Well, Travis Lee, you don't have to interact with your neighbor, do you? Do you interact with your neighbor on a daily basis? If so, that's unfortunate. Rick Foreman, my new brother-in-law is a Clemson graduate, but he's not like a diehard fan, man. My sister's even trying to convert him. So I don't think Cameron really, I don't think it really matters a whole lot to him. Let me put it to you this way. He's not a Clemson fan to the degree where it bothers me in any sort of way. So. Justin, he says, my guy, has TSUS thought about any partnership with Gigi, home team guy that stay home? Stay tuned, Justin. Stay tuned. That's all I'm going to say. We're working on something behind the scenes that could be very, very big. Next weekend, actually. So just stay tuned. Stay tuned. Chase says in the Big Cock Club Discord TDC Questions channel, he says, we beat the Aggies next week. I don't see us being ranked. At that point, they would be 3-4 nationally. It wouldn't be an impressive win. I think the media would just hop on flaming Jimbo for a lackluster season. If they were 4-2 or better, we would be ranked with a win, in my opinion. We'll be like 26th to 28th range. And Chase, that's fine. I don't give a damn. Like the rankings are cool. I think it would say a lot about, it'd be a great thing for the program to say, hey, in year 2 with Shane Beamer, we were ranked, or we are ranked. But I mean, we all know, right, that if you're not fighting for the college football playoff, like the rankings don't really mean a ton, other than at any point you can sit there and say, we're a good program because we're ranked. But I mean, look, Kentucky's still ranked, guys. What does that mean? Does it mean anything? So, anyways. John Edwards says, my brother's a Clemson fan. Jeez, tough. William, appreciate you tuning in, my guy. Thank you so much. Guys, phone lines are wide open. Again, we got JC Sherbert on at 1:15. Excited to get his thoughts on everything that happened over the weekend, and also thoughts going into the bye week. Great football on this weekend, guys. Great football. Is there a college game on tonight? Let's see. I know I just asked you all, but I'm going to look myself. Let's see. There is, yes. Okay, 2. Baylor, West Virginia. That'll be a good one. Baylor, West Virginia at 7. Temple, UCF at 7. And then the fun really gets going Saturday. By the way, guys, I don't know if we got any Gamecocks that are in Lancaster. Anybody who's in that area, but yours truly playing in the South Carolina Youth Diabetes Association softball game on Saturday. We'll actually have the founder of SCYDA. He will be on the show tomorrow just to sort of promote the show and tell you guys what's going to happen, what it's going to be about, right? What the game's all going to be about. But we'll be at Doomsday Corner in Lancaster to play in that game, and appreciate them asking me, and it's for a great cause, guys. So if you want to come on out and watch your boy hit some dingers, you're more than welcome. Again, going to be out there basically all day. What time does, let's see, here it is right here. Okay, so that is the 3:30 game, Tennessee and Alabama. So I'm excited to play in the game. We're going to have the games on, no doubt. I'm going to have the games on my phone, no question. And then let's see, what time does, Clemson, Florida State, 7:30. How about Clemson's only, I think, a 3.5-point favorite in that game. So Florida, LSU at 7. There's some great football on. Southern Cal, Utah at 8 o'clock. Love to see it. North Carolina, Duke at 8 if you want some rivalry action. What if Carolina Clemson played in the middle of the season? Would that be weird? That'd probably be pretty weird, wouldn't it? Probably be pretty weird. NC State, Syracuse, Georgia, Vandy. Yeah. Auburn, Ole Miss at noon. Michigan, Penn State at noon. Got some really, really good games. Really good games. Va Tech, Miami at 12:30. Interesting. What's happening at Virginia Tech football? Let's see. Jesse Jacobs, Chris, you look like you average about 250. Well, I was a pitcher in college, Jesse. I wasn't even a hitter, so I'd take 250, actually. I would take 250. Somebody asked about Travis Lee. Have you heard rumors on Corey Rucker transferring? I have not, and I know that a lot of folks have their rumors because they what's interesting is what Corey Rucker posts on social media. And I know Beamer said that he's been hurt, but I mean, and our guy Austin Greer thinks people are crazy for not knowing the guy has a broke foot. Played against Charlotte, kind of just faded off into the distance. I guess maybe his foot flaring back up. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal with Corey Rucker is. I have no idea. I don't want to try to draw any conclusions, but he has some of the stuff he posts on social media, like on his Instagram story, is kind of like, But anyway, I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea on Corey Rucker. That's why, though, guys, coming into a season, that's why I told you all, right? That's why I told you all. You got to keep realistic expectations in the sense for all these new pieces. Like some things are going to overachieve, right, and exceed your expectations. Some things are going to underachieve and fall short of your expectations. And some things are going to hit right in the middle, be kind of what you expected. And so Corey Rucker is one of those guys that, sucks because it's due to injury, but he has not lived up to anything we hoped and expected from him, right? Because he hasn't played. So that's sort of kind of what happened. I mean, I don't think Christian Beal-Smith's really been, I'm not trying to knock these guys, but they're not all going to come in and be All-Americans. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Christian Beal-Smith hasn't been a positive contributor to our football team, but everybody gets kind of caught up in the preseason. And by the way, we can talk about this today if you want to before JC gets on. I posted a clip late last night and posted the clip late last night. It was from a conversation we had yesterday here on these airwaves. And I talked about how I'm in it for the long haul with Shane Beamer and how for the next 3 to 4 seasons, first 4 to 5 seasons for Shane Beamer, it's all about making postseasons, right? And stacking recruiting classes. And a lot of some folks disagreed on social media saying, Chris, if we go 6-6 in year 4 or year 5, that is absolutely inexcusable. Let me say this. My entire point behind that clip was, as long as you're going, here's the thing, because building consistency is a positive, right? Will Muschamp's problem in building the South Carolina football program, wasn't that year 4 or 5, we weren't winning 10 games. It was the fact that it was there was no consistency. You won 9 in year 2. Then you win 7 in year 3. Then you win 4 in year 4. And you're 2-8 in year 5. I mean, it's just as long as you're keeping your head above water, in my opinion, I'm not saying that we should throw a parade. You should throw a parade for going 6-6 in year 5. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just making the point that as long as you're making postseasons, South Carolina should strive, in my opinion, to get to a point where a bowl game is sort of an afterthought. A bowl game is, we go to bowl games every year. And we're not far from that. I think obviously the minimum expectation for this program is to go to a bowl game every single year. But I've talked about realistic expectations for South Carolina football. If this program can get to a point where it's averaging over the course of a decade 8 wins per year, and every 3 to 4 years you realistically have a team that can compete, win double-digit games, compete with the likes of Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, compete to go to Atlanta, I think that is something we should all hope and strive for that this program can be. And I think if Beamer did that, he'd be the greatest coach in school history. Now, you got some slapdicks on social media that say I've got a loser mentality for saying that accepting 8-4 is a loser mentality. No, it's not. No, it's not. Especially when you and I have no control over what happens on the field of play. You are setting yourself up for heartache and pure failure. If you go into year 3 of Beamer saying, again, fans get caught up in this scary, we won 7 in year 1. There's no excuse not to be winning 10 in year 4. It just doesn't work that way. It just does not work that way. And I just still keep at the forefront of what South Carolina football has always been, right? What Spurrier did, really, folks, we should truly look at it as for the greatness that it was, because it goes so against the grain of what this program's always been. That's not who South Carolina is. Winning 11 games for 3 straight years, that is something that, I'll go on record and say until it happens, I don't think it'll ever be replicated. Or is that correct? I don't think it'll ever be duplicated. I don't think it'll ever be done again. That type of run, 11 wins for 3 straight years, 33-6 over a 3-year stretch. I don't think it'll ever be done again. I just don't, because I don't think Georgia's going anywhere. I don't think Bama's going anywhere. Tennessee's on the up and up. Florida is always going to be pretty good. Kentucky has shown, Mark Stoops has built a great program. It's just tough. It's just hard. It's not really even a knock on South Carolina. It's just hard to have that type of success in the SEC. Look at Texas A&M. They paid $30 million for a recruiting class. And they're 3-3. It's just hard. It's just hard. So, my point again being that for South Carolina to build the type of quality depth they need to realistically challenge to win 9+ games, especially on a consistent basis, it's going to take time. I mean, it's just going to take time. Jeff Gullidge brings up blue chip ratio. I think Beamer's doing a great job at that in this recruiting class. I think he's doing a fantastic job with that. But he's going to need 3 to 4 of those classes to really build quality depth. And I saw people on social media commenting about the transfer portal, right? How does the transfer portal impact? And I think the transfer portal is a great tool. But if this season has proven anything, guys, it's that the transfer portal doesn't solve all your problems. I mean, granted, we might go 10-2. God forbid. I'd love to nothing more than to get a Beamer Bowl ASTAT. I'd love that. I would love that. I would love that. But, realistically, I think what it's shown is that it doesn't solve all your problems. It doesn't solve all your problems. So, I mean, I think we need to continue to utilize the transfer portal, but I just, and I know our good friend Mark Ryan, and I've heard others say this too, by the way, not just him, but many folks will tell you, year 3 is the year. If it's, year 3 is the year that tells you. I don't even know, and I know there's data to support it, but it's like, okay, so then how many does Beamer need to win in year 3 to show you he's the guy? If he goes 7-5, is he a bum? If he doesn't win 10 games, I think it will do, excuse me, guys. I think it'll do South Carolina football a lot of good to buckle up and buckle in for the long haul. And that's why I said, as long as you're making bowl games, I'm not saying 6-6 is a good season. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying throw a parade because you went 6-6. But as long as you're making bowl games, you're keeping your head above water, you're showing these prospects, hey, we're just a couple guys away. We're chipping away. It ain't going to happen overnight, man. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not going to happen overnight. You got to chip away. You got to walk before you can run. And I just think there's many folks out there. There's not many. There's some. For me, guys, I look at this thing very black and white. I don't, you all know I don't put on garnet glasses. And so, it's funny. I think some fans think they really think their expectations dictate how many games we win. And it's like, dude, just because, there's some folks that think that I control how many games we win. Well, if you picked us to win 10, we'd go win 10. It's like, guys, I don't set that mark. I don't set the benchmark. I don't set how many games we win. My expectations could be for us to go 6-6 every year. That doesn't mean we're going to go 6-6 every year. Beamer and them do their own thing inside the building. I've said before, even after the Kentucky game, I'll tell you guys, my advice to fans, personally, my advice is to set your expectations conservatively and be pleasantly surprised when things work out really, really well. I'm not saying that to say, have just stupidly low expectations. I'm just saying that, bro, if you go into every Carolina football season expecting 10-2, I feel for you, man. I really do. I feel for you. Anyway, that's kind of a side note. It feels good to be 4-2 right now. It feels good to be 4-2. It does. It feels very good to be 4-2. I think that's the number one thing, and that's the whole point of my clip from last night, is that, again, has it looked exactly the way we wanted? No. But we're 4-2. I mean, that's it. We're 4-2. Coleman Hall says, I don't understand how keeping head above water should be the logical expectation goal if South Carolina is bringing in top 20 recruiting classes every year. I don't expect much from the Gamecocks, so don't get me wrong. Well, I would say this, and Coleman, maybe keeping head above water is not a maybe that's kind of aggressive. I think you continue to build the program if you go to postseason and win bowl games. Winning a bowl game is still a big deal at Carolina.
Press 2.
Will, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you asking. What's up?
Want to interject a little something different here, switch the pace up a little bit since we're in a bye week. Talk a little bit about men's basketball. Watched the Lamont Paris press conference. Getting kind of excited about basketball season this year. I think we actually got a shot to make a little bit of noise. That Hayden Brown kid from Citadel, looked up some highlights on him. He actually looks somewhat athletic and will he can handle the ball. Kind of a big kid, 6'5", 230. Obviously, JC Jackson. The Nietzsche kid from Ohio State, the point guard kid. A lot of good things I'm hearing about him. Just kind of excited. I want to get your take on what you thought.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm excited for year one of the Paris era. I think sort of like Beamer, right? We're just all excited for something different. I don't know exactly how many games we're going to win. When you have a guy like JC Jackson leading the way, you'd love to see this team make any sort of postseason. I mean, it's crazy how just adding, in basketball, you add one guy of his caliber and it changes your expectations for the season. So, what, I don't really know what you deem as a success or failure in year one of Paris. I don't even know if that applies in year one. I think it's just all about, let's see how different it looks, if at all. Right. And, I think with JC, you could realistically shoot for going to the NIT, going to some sort of postseason, potentially. But I think we're all just excited, man, to start a new era, especially after Frank Martin's made a complete ass of himself all offseason. So I'm happy he's not our coach anymore and excited for the Paris era.
Yeah, I mean, I've really just kind of – it put a bad taste in my mouth, all the shit that he said. You know what I mean? Like, he has gone out and just –
yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked about it a lot on these airways because, obviously we've got caught up in football and focused on that. But, man, I really am grateful for, I think Martin, without Frank Martin, right, he raised the level of expectations and the Final Four run was great. And he made it to where not going to the postseason's not an acceptable year. Like we got a taste of it, right? And now fans have heightened expectations, and I give him kudos for that. But Frank Martin's a dickhead. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. He's a dickhead. It just, it's you can be a dickhead and win, right? You can do that. You can get away with it. When you're not winning and you're that same dickhead, it's really hard to be on your side. So I got no ill will, nothing against Frank Martin. I waited a lot longer, I felt like, than most people to say that a change probably needs to be made. But yeah, man, it's like a petty high school breakup, man. The some of the stuff he said, and yeah, I mean, I hope UMass enjoys his douchebaggery. I don't know what else to say. So
what bothers me is that he's never admitted his own fault. Like, he talks about us like, oh, they fired a winner. It's like, bro, appreciate the Final Four, but your ass didn't go to the postseason bowl once the whole time you were here. Like, let's not act like, we didn't win a lot before you came here. I get that. The percentages in the SEC play were better. But, you didn't do your job, bro. Like, you didn't take us to the postseason at one time. And in my opinion, even at a non-basketball school, once every 4 years ain't much to ask for, I don't think. You know what I mean? Like, I know we're not going every year. But as far as this year expectation, I think we can shoot for 20, 21 games in a possible tournament appearance. I think that we'll probably be a little more willing to get, if JC Jackson turns out to be pretty good, they'll want to put us on TV a little bit more. And we might even get a little bit more love from that tournament committee because that's how shit works. And maybe get a little bit more of a nudge. And I think it'll be a little more exciting to watch this year, hopefully. Maybe the brand of basketball will be a little different because, Frank Martin's brand of basketball wins sometimes, but it's hard to watch. And I'm looking forward to some different stuff.
I think we're all really tired of watching Gamecocks teams, no matter the sport, with bad offenses. So I'd love to see a team that was exciting to watch offensively, scored a bunch of points. And, again, with Paris, it's going to take time, build the program, what have you. But I don't know, man. Men's basketball, South Carolina, it's an interesting thing. Like, what are the expectations? You know what I mean? It's I don't know. I don't know. But I'm excited to see what Paris does. Right. There's not a ton of them.
Yeah, there's not a lot of diehards like there are in football, So
yeah, for sure. They're there, but it's just a smaller number. But, I'll say this too, though, from what I do, and I've talked about a lot, I've got a unique vantage point on Gamecocks athletics and the fans, and this fan base loves basketball. They just want a winner. You know what I mean? It's basketball is a sport. I'm admittedly, like, basketball is not my number one sport, far from it. I'm a baseball guy, and then football, and then basketball. Bad basketball is hard to watch, man. It is hard to watch. I think we all just want to see an exciting product, get the most out of Gigi Jackson and beat Clemson. And I think that would be a pretty successful year. So.
Absolutely. See, I grew up, I played basketball, so, and football is probably my favorite sport to watch, but because I play basketball, it's kind of like my first love, if you will. And I've always liked watching Gamecock basketball, but it's been hard lately, and it's hard to get behind something that you don't fully, love.
Right.
And Frank Martin kind of took some of that out of it. But just excited to see what we can do when the girls are really kind of getting the program up on that end. And it's amazing to see what Dawn has done. I mean, she's an absolute stud, a winner, and she's recognized from everybody. You know what I mean? Like, we get a lot of publicity because of Dawn Staley, and that's cool. But I'll hang up and listen, bro.
Appreciate it, Will. Man. Thanks so much, man. Great stuff. Yeah, I'm excited for basketball too. And listen, this isn't pile on Frank Martin Day, but I just really haven't talked about it since he said all he said on that one podcast, the Slapdick podcast. I don't know, man. I think I get not being happy with the decision, but Frank talking about he got fired for winning. Yeah, good one. Guys, again, we're going to jump into a quick break, but I want to continue to hear from you more, your questions, comments, calls, and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Let's get back into your questions. And by the way, somebody tweeted yesterday about South Carolina basketball having a secret scrimmage. Per Watch Stadium, that secret scrimmage, October the 22nd, will be against the Charlotte 49ers. So, in case you were wondering, not so secret, I guess. Let's see. Coleman Hall says, I'm just so tired of good to great recruiting and bad teams with little to no offense. I blame Muschamp for my lack of patience. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's coaches don't get, 4, 5, 6 years to build a program anymore. It's win now. That's the mentality, win now. And I understand, listen, I understand it too with the recruiting. I just say this about Shane Beamer. If by year 4, right, it doesn't look different with his guys in place, then I think you're like, okay, what the hell's going on? But still at this point, it's a lot of carryover from the previous regime. Again, we're 4-2 right now. I think we're in a good spot. I really do. I know things aren't perfect. We're guys. I'll go out on a limb and say this: we're not going to win our next 4 games in a row. We're not. I don't think so. Like we A&M, Mizzou, Vandy, Florida. Those next 4 in a row. Do I think we are consistent enough to win all 4 of those? No, I don't. I think if you go 3-1 in those next 4, that is a fantastic. Right? 3-1? No, which game am I missing? Oh, Tennessee. Okay. If you go 3-1 in those next 4, though, I think that's a success. I really do. And I'm not trying to, set limiting beliefs or limiting expectations. But if you went into Tennessee 7-3, I mean, would you guys scoff at that? I think that'd be a really, really good record. I think that would be, yeah. So if you can go 3-1 over these next 4, I think you did really well. I think you did really, really well. So, Austin Greer says 3-1 is the best case scenario. I just realistically, I don't think we win all 4 of them. We're the good news is these next 4 games, these teams you play are just as much, if not more so, inconsistent and flawed like you, but we're also inconsistent and flawed, So I think it's smart for our fans to go into the second half of this season and understand, hey, we've seen us play well on the road and beat Kentucky. We've also seen us play like complete shit. So, I mean, we're somewhere in the middle of that, right? And understanding, too, that Kentucky, not world beaters, right? Not world beaters. So, it's hold on to your seats, folks, because who knows? It's unpredictable. That's the beauty of it. That's the fun of Gamecocks football, but that's just sort of where you are. So, we'll talk more about A&M next week, and I'll lock in a prediction, all that good stuff. I mean, I had A&M beating you pretty good in the preseason, but I also thought A&M was going to go 10-2. So I got to stop picking A&M to do well. A&M has just proven they do not deserve that. They don't deserve to be picked to win. Like, they just don't. They just don't. I don't know. They just don't. Chase in the TDC Questions channel says, Chris, do you think Strider or Morton gets the start tomorrow for the Braves? Still TBA at the moment. I think it's probably Morton. That's just a pure guess on my end, but I think it's probably Morton. So, Brendan M notes that women's basketball will scrimmage UNC that same day that Carolina scrimmages Charlotte, the men's team. So there you go. Yeah, men's and women's, both around the corner. Both men's and women's around the corner. Carter Bingham, if we win 7 straight, we might just win the last 2. Yeah, I don't think this team isn't a 7-game win streak. A 7-game win streak. Travis Allen says, Chris, if the quarterback play looks lackluster next week against Texas A&M next week, who could be on their third quarterback? Could we not use 2 quarterbacks? Travis, do you think using 2 quarterbacks is going to solve problems for us offensively? I think it just creates another problem. No, listen. Spencer Rattler is not getting benched at all at any point this season. He would have to play so poorly. Guys, it's not happening. It's not happening. He's not getting benched. Bottom line, in the story, in the discussion, he's not getting benched. Jeff Gullidge, no podcast tomorrow. No TSUS podcast. The Daily Crow podcast, of course, will drop because we will have TDC tomorrow as normal. But with the bye week, just really nothing to discuss. And obviously, we've got our mid-season report card show upcoming. I thought about, should we do it on Friday? Should we do it on Monday? And I felt like, you know what, let's do it Monday so we can really kick off next week in style. So there will be no TSUS podcast tomorrow, but the Daily Crow podcast will drop on the Spurs Up Show podcast feed. I will just say this. I think we're in a really good position still to go 7-5. I think 8-4 would be. It's like, you know, it's why it's funny to go back to this conversation, but it's why I asked you all over the preseason. I'll either give you 8-4 or roll the dice, right? And so many, Chris, roll the dice, baby. We're gonna win it all, 10-2. Nah, bro, I would have taken 8-4. I took 8-4 every day of the week. I'd still take 8-4. I would still take 8-4. So I think we're in a good position. I think right now, gun to head, we probably end up 7-5. I think so. Travis Allen says, not saying bench the guy, but use Doty or to carry on Joyner in certain plays to mix it up. I hear you, Travis. I hear you, man. I hear you. I hear you. I'm just telling you, I don't think it's going to happen. I do not think it's going to happen. Somebody said, any word on Luke Doty taking his red shirt? Craig, I think that's something, if that were to happen, I don't think we're going to know about it. I doubt it. So, Austin Greer says, imagine the outrage if we end up 6-6. Well, I mean, let's look at all possible scenarios, Austin. I mean, if you beat Mizzou and Vanderbilt, right, and you do end up 6-6, I mean, I think it. Listen, I said this over the summer too. I think it will be fair for fans to be disgruntled with that. I think it'll be, again, I want to speak on yet again the point I made yesterday in the clip I posted last night. I'm not sitting here telling you that going 6-6 every year should be the goal and that you should be thrilled with that result. But to the point Coleman Hall made earlier, let's go back to that about recruiting. Yeah, we're recruiting top 25 classes. But look at like where the class right now that we have that's 15th in the country sits. Isn't it still like 7th in the SEC? 8th? Like everybody else in the SEC is recruiting well also. Even Vandy's recruiting better than they ever have. So like.
Call from
Brian Bennett.
Here we go. Brian, what's up, man? How are you?
What's going on, Chris? I got a question. I don't know if anybody ever addressed that asked really, but do you think that Spencer and Shaq got a good relationship? Because if you listen to the interviews of post game, they're always on the Spencer face saying something like, "Yeah, Shaq says that you like make some of the bonehead plays and make some of the biggest mistakes out of everybody, and you got to end up fixing them and stuff like that, but you take accountability." And Spencer ran off and said, "Well, that's that. He's a funny guy." Like, do you think that's a lot from discourse between the two?
I mean, it's really hard to speak on it not being in the building, right? I feel like I'd be just kind of giving you a best guess at best. I can tell you this, though. Anybody who's ever been in a locker room or been on a team can tell you, you don't like everybody you work with. You don't like everybody you play with. You don't like everybody that coaches you. So at the end of the day, man, it don't really matter whether Rattler and Satterfield like each other. The job, their goal is common. Their jobs do not change. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? I can't really say, but it doesn't really matter. That wouldn't be a good excuse. Well, I mean, we're not playing well because I don't like Sap. It's like, well, I don't give a damn who you like.
Yeah, I don't.
You know what I mean? So
I don't. Yeah, I don't put on like not playing well. I'm just, it's like the chemistry wise and stuff. Cause
I mean,
Stat made a bold comment. A bold comment saying when he came in, we both got something to prove and stuff like that. And we got to talk like that. Just Spencer. He always says that he's better in tempo, but a drive get going and when tempo, all of a sudden it stops and stalls. With other play calling. So I'm trying to figure there's some chemistry issue going on a little bit. And not saying because Spiller has not played as great as we expect him to, but it could be something there a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. Listen, there could be chemistry issues, no doubt. You're onto something. So I don't know. It's just tough to tell from the outside, but we've heard it from others too. The Josh Van clip that was so damning a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know. I mean, I think we all agree, and we all tend to think that South Carolina needs to make a change at OC after the season. I think that's probably still what needs to happen, even with the success against Kentucky, whatever second half. But I think when the dust settles at the end of the year, we'll still look at this thing and say, okay, we need to make a change.
Yeah, no doubt. I just don't. It just seems to be, a lot of things seem to be forced and not fluid a little bit. I look at Alabama, they change according to this every other year, and the offense seems to flow because Saban got a system going, and I just think that it shouldn't be as hard at this juncture, like with skill players, we got to be a little more fluid on offense and stuff like that,
Right. Yeah.
That was it, man. Appreciate it. That's all.
Yeah, man. Appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
All right.
Great stuff. Guys, we are getting JC Sherbert on the show here in about 5 minutes or so. We'll just roll through. No break here. Doc Graybert, it matters. These are still young people. Life experience isn't there yet for them to realize if you aren't liked, so what? Doc, I don't know that I really comprehend what you're saying, but I will reinforce what I said. I mean, listen, I'll tell you this. I don't know if I've ever really gone on record and talked about it, but my days at Newberry, let me just put it to you this way. I've been on teams where I didn't like the guys I played with. I didn't get along with the guys I played with. My group at Newberry was a very interesting one, to say the least. And I mean, we not everybody was a fan. Everybody, that's putting it lightly. Here we go. Paul, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you asking. What's up?
Hey, man. So I was just wondering. So I was watching some clips 2010 to 2013, and who in the recruiting that's coming up, or guys on our team right now that might not be doing anything on the defensive line, who do you think could be a real good playmaker in the next 2 to 3 seasons? And then another thing I was wondering is, Doty didn't take a red shirt this year. So do you think if Rattler comes back next year, what are they going to do with that? They're going to start Rattler, or they're going to have a competition, or you think Doty will transfer? Because I feel like he's the next guy, and there's going to be a little bit of an issue with that next season.
Well, Doty can technically still take a red shirt because he's only played in 4 games. If he plays in 1 more, the red shirt gets burned. That's why I said last week that if I was Luke Doty, I mean, you can call this selfish. You can say whatever you want. But if I'm Luke Doty, I'm telling the coaching staff, hey, if there's a real opportunity for me to play meaningful snaps, I'm game. I want to help this football team any way I can. But I also got to look out for me. I got to take care of my chicken. You know what I mean? I got to take care of my business, my future. I'm not going to burn a red shirt, a year of eligibility to play garbage time snaps. So I think if Rattler comes back, I'd be shocked to see Luke Doty in a Gamecock uniform next year. I'd be shocked. Yeah, and I know the kid's all Gamecock, and I could be totally wrong. Right? Listen, I said the same thing about DeCarrion Joyner multiple times. I really thought that he was going to – I thought he would have transferred at some point. You never know why guys make certain decisions. And, hey, I'd love to see him to be a Gamecock, and, I'm a big Luke Doty guy, big fan of Luke Doty. But I think he also wants to play. So I think if Rattler comes back, realistically, man, you'd love to say it's an open competition. And I know it is a competition to a degree, but Spencer Rattler, let me put it to you this way. If Rattler were to get beaten out, he's transferring. Somebody's going to transfer. You know what I mean? Spencer Rattler's goal is to get to the league. You know what I mean? So, and on the defensive line front, man, I mean, I think TJ Sanders and Nick Barrett are 2 of the younger guys that they're really high on that you're talking about over the next couple of years could be playmakers. I like Gilbert Edmond on the edge. I know he's not necessarily a young guy, but Tonka Hemingway, I think, will be a big-time player for us next year. Whenever Alex Huntley gets back, he'll be a big-time player for us next year because he'll be back. So, and then obviously they're recruiting some big-time guys up front. I don't have all their names in front of me, but they're recruiting some big-time guys in this cycle, in this class. So I think Shane Beamer understands you got to build the football team from the inside out. I think he understands that you got to build up front of the line of scrimmage and go from there. But yeah, I mean, back to the quarterback thing, man. Yeah, I think that, some people didn't like that. Oh, you're selfish. You first. Well, bro, it's a business, and at some point you do got to think about you, because you as a fan, like, that's all great and everything. I mean, but that player, that individual player, I won't blame a player for putting themselves first. I won't. So
yeah. Thinking like Doty, like you said, he's such a South Carolina guy, and I feel like that's what the program's been missing from the coach perspective, and also, and like when we had Connor Shaw, right? Like Connor Shaw wasn't going to be an NFL prospect. He wasn't going to be some 6'4" guy, but he was like a Gamecock, man. Like he loved that, and I don't know if Rattler has that same. I mean, obviously he's trying to get this league, so he's out there, he's doing his thing, but yeah, I just like to see Luke Doty get his shot, but I don't know. I mean, the coaches know what they're doing. They've seen more than we have. So, but I think Rattler needs to finish strong, or he might have to come back just to prove himself to even get any value in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if the season continues and Rattler's stats are pedestrian, I mean, I think he'll have a decision to make, and it'll kind of come down to what his draft grade is. But yeah, if the stats are pedestrian, I think that I would not be surprised at all to see him return.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for all your support, man. Appreciate what you're doing. Love your show.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for the call. Really good stuff. That being said, guys, hey, let's go ahead and get him in here. We're going to talk with JC Sherbert of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur. And JC, I appreciate you taking the time. I know obviously you said you got to run at 1:30, so we'll dive into it. And that kind of works. We don't have a game to talk about this weekend, so we can really just focus on the Kentucky stuff. But first things first, man, I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much for having me on your airwaves. And again, thanks so much for doing this.
It's always a lot of fun and good stuff, good content, good discussion each and every week, man. So glad to be here again this week after a big win for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, absolutely. JC, I mentioned this morning, but dude, you nailed it, man. You nailed it with your score prediction, and obviously you were in Lexington. Did the game go about as you expected in regards to South Carolina's I would say domination up front of the line of scrimmage? Again, I know you were extremely confident going in that game, especially when we talked last week. The rumblings were really picking up that Will Levis was not going to play. Indeed, he didn't. Obviously, that affected Kentucky. But your overall thoughts on the game, because like I said, I mean, you nailed the score prediction. So would you say that game went about as you expected?
Yeah, I thought Carolina would get enough offense, or I guess the verbiage I used was, there's no excuse for them not to get enough offense to win the game. I also, it wasn't just Levis, Chris, to me. Kentucky the whole year has not been the Kentucky up front on offense we're used to seeing. Now, I'll say this, in a few years, they're going to be really good again because they have some big, talented young guys. But, 3 offensive line coaches in 3 years, including Eric Wolford last year, kind of left like a thief in the night for Alabama. A lot of youth, some injuries up front. And when you watched them during the season before they played Carolina, they didn't protect as well. They didn't open holes as well as they once did. They were only averaging, I think, 110 yards a game on the ground. That was without Rodriguez. Obviously, he's a special player. And Carolina bottled him up pretty good in the second half. And I just felt like that when you look at this D-line at South Carolina, there is talent there. Obviously, they're missing some depth. But when you look at Arkansas's offensive line, which I thought was elite when they played Carolina, and then Georgia's offensive line, Kentucky's didn't really compare. And you always hear this phrase out there, let them eat, when you're talking about the defensive line. So I felt like Carolina's D-line would eat on Saturday night. Levis not being out there made it a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but, the young guy really didn't make his quick decisions and wasn't able to hurt Carolina with his feet like Levis maybe would have been able to. So all in all, yeah, that matchup, Carolina's defensive front versus their offensive line, to me was a big advantage for the Gamecocks. And, in the stands, it sort of seemed like Gamecock football again. There's been many times when this program's been successful through the years where Carolina's brought a really good defense or a defense that could dominate a game on the road and won. And that's exactly what happened on Saturday night in Lexington. I mean, shoot, one scoring drive at the end of the half and then a garbage touchdown. You take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So, hey, look, I haven't been right about a whole lot this year, right? My picks on the JC and Morgan podcast, I think I'm 5-15 against the spread this season. Things have just not gone well for me prediction-wise, but sure, I'm glad I ended up nailing that one the other night.
Yeah, JC, like you mentioned, defense travels in the SEC, and the Gamecocks had a lot of guys up front that were active, the creatures, as Jimmy Lindsay calls them. I know we talked this morning, but Zach Pickens, Jordan Birch, Tonka Hemingway with a huge night. Just talk about what you saw from that Gamecocks defensive front and, what encourages you, I guess, from that performance going into the rest of the season.
Well, I mean, I think Pickens has been playing well pretty much all year. He's one guy, though. I mean, you have to have your ends and your buck or whatever they call it now, and then your other tackle kind of step up. I think Tonka Hemingway's emergence really the last couple of weeks has been huge. Sometimes you'll get a D lineman like that, and then they'll get a chance to do something on special teams like Tonka did, and it'll kind of change their whole outlook, right? Because they did something special. And, he's been playing really well. I mean, he's the guy that we looked at in 2020 when he was playing end and said, that guy's got a bright future. I think it took him a year, to adjust to moving inside. He put on the weight last year, but I think that sometimes, and I think you can say this about Pickens too, because he was an end in high school. It takes those guys that slide inside some adjustment. Travian Robertson was a guy like that. He started at defensive end his first game as a true freshman in 2007. And by the time 2009 got there, he's playing inside 300-something pounds and was pretty doggone good. So, I think sometimes there's a transition period and you see Tonka kind of coming into his own. Well, now you're going to get Boogie Huntley back, and that gives you more depth and another creature on the inside. And I think Gilbert Edmond and Jordan Birch have really stepped up, Chris. Gilbert Edmond is a guy you and I have talked about a bunch. And I think he's kind of, dare I say, starting to come into his own as a pass rusher, and Birch, even with the big expectations, slowly but surely, dare I say, he's getting there. He had a play the other night where he ran down the quarterback. That's why you recruit Jordan Birch, because he can do that. Not every defensive end in the country can come from the backside of the play and run a guy down like that. And he did. I think we saw flashes of that as a freshman down at Florida when he made a couple of plays like that. But he's starting to play well. So, I think all in all, Carolina had an advantage there, and it's not always the case when you have an advantage that you exploit it. But the Gamecocks certainly did the other night. I thought a very young secondary and thin secondary also played a great game. Getting David Spalding back was huge, Chris. I thought, people were like, why'd you take this kid from Georgia Southern that redshirted 1 year and only played 5 games the next? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because of his length and athleticism and his upside. He had some good moments last year. He's been hurt most of the year this year. I think his length really came out against the Wildcats. 2 huge plays. Or really one huge play. The other one kind of salted the game away. But you look, those long arms getting in that pitch lane to deflect the pass, caused the fumble that Tonka picked up and nearly scored on. And then the pick at the end, you saw like a glove. He just went up in the air and got it. Somebody compared him to Antonio Allen the other day. They're similarly built, with that length and wingspan and stuff like that. So, I think having David Spalding back and healthy and playing is very big for this secondary. And then they're going to get more guys like I think Devontae Reed will be back next week. I think RJ Roderick will be back next week. And that gives them more depth for now. Even though, DQ Smith led the team in tackles. Eamon Warray continues to play really good. Their young guys are really playing beyond their years. But the depth getting back, I think, is only going to help this defense moving forward.
Now, winning cures all, JC, right? So that is the focus, but certainly you leave that game, and if you look at it from a critical eye, there's still a lot left to be desired on the offensive side. I know we talked about it this morning. Offensive line improvement, I think, is really the shining bright spot as we sit at the halfway point of the season, that you feel good about that, hey, this offensive line, like we talked about, is starting to really gel, right? Really starting to play as a unit, and maybe that's something that we'll see continue to improve in the second half. But first half was pretty brutal, 90 total yards, kind of more of the same of what we've seen to this point. Second half, you make the adjustments. Looked like a completely different offense, or maybe just the execution was just that much better. Just talk about what you saw from the offense from the first half to the second half, and what did the Gamecocks do in the second half that you particularly liked?
The first half was very slow and methodical, and you know, in person, and this is the first game I've been to in person this year, you get a better sense of it because you're sitting there, Playcock's running, shuffling people in and out. The other sidelines watching everything you do, they're shuffling people in and out. Very slow, I thought. Now, South Carolina is not a big tempo team right now. They've used it from time to time. But in the second half, you know, it's not like they ran a bunch of quote unquote tempo, but they played at a brisker pace. They got lined up, they called the play, they attacked. And although that was a big difference, I thought the second half, the play calling not only was solid, I thought it made a difference. You know, the crossing pattern to Jalen Brooks was a beautiful play call. Really, Kentucky was fooled on that one, fooled on the reverse. You know, I even thought at the end of the first half, the interception Spencer threw to Stogner was a really good play call. You look at what Austin Stogner did at Oklahoma, getting him in those one-on-one situations down the field. I mean, that's money. A better throw. I mean, Spencer threw it short and low. He needs to throw it and lead him and throw it high. But that'll come. You know, if they can continue to get Austin Stogner in those situations, that could be something that comes out later. But all in all, the second half, you know, sticking with the ground game, Marshawn Lloyd, you know, was special the whole night. Played very, very well. You know, I think even guys like Amarian Brown and Josh Vann that maybe didn't show up as much in the stat column, you know, made some key plays at some moments. Jaheim Bell as well. You know, and I think some unsung heroes are out there helping this run game go, like Wyatt Campbell and Nate Atkins. Those two kind of tight end blocker-ish guys really, I think, have helped this offensive line. You know, and then, you know, I tackled Dylan Wanham and then the platoon of Jalen Nichols and Ja'Kai Moore, I thought had a really good game. And then, of course, Jovan Gwynn won SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. So if these guys can continue to get better, I do think that this offense will have a chance. You know, there's some things that have to happen, obviously, with the way it's executed, the way it's called. Obviously, I think that Spencer Rattler at times sees pressure that's not there or feels it that's not there. I think he's seeing it rather than feeling it and bailing on plays too early. Of course, sometimes guys aren't open. But, you know, I think that's something he's going to have to work on in order to have a big second half. But all in all, you know, there were a lot of bright spots in the second half in Lexington.
Thoughts on the post-game antics from Shane Beamer? Because, again, we talked about it this morning, but the culture, climate comments from over the summer, they played a huge role in this game. And that was probably my overall takeaway, JC. My favorite thing I saw from Saturday night, outside of the obvious, the scoreboard, the execution, but the tenacity with which this team played, it felt like the edge, right? And I think a lot of that came from, obviously, the comments over the summer. And it was very evident in the post game that Shane Beamer and company took that very personally.
Yeah. I like that. You know, I think that sometimes, you know, it can be overkill, I guess, and things like that. But look, when you're trying to kind of get a program headed in the right direction and get people to believe and rally behind you, you know, the fans love to see it, especially when you win. When you lose, not so much. But when you win, you know, there's no better coach than Shane Beamer after a win because he's going to be positive anyway, you know, and I think that the fans really dig into that positivity. And, you know, no matter what Mark Stoops' intention was when he said it, the timing of it, you know, I mean, come on, man, you know, why take a shot at the Gamecocks? And I found over the years, sometimes when coaches take shots like that, and have chips on their shoulder. Not all the time, but sometimes they end up losing. And then have egg on their face. So I think that justice was served, so to speak, in Lexington after all the comments. And it's been a real frustrating time against Kentucky if you're Carolina. And now, you look at it, you're 2-2 in the last 4. And, this is the best stretch of Kentucky football probably since Bear Bryant. So you got to feel good about that because Carolina's been a program in transition during those 4 years.
JC, I appreciate the time. Before I get you out of here, man, we sit at the halfway point of this season, which it's the way it fell this year. It's really nice. 6 games in, bye week, and then you got 6 more to go. So truly at the halfway point. So this is a great time for reflection, and we'll do that. Obviously, I think I told you on the Monday podcast, I'll do the whole midseason recap, look ahead, all that good stuff, report card. When you look at the first half, while it may not have a lot of the times look the way that we thought it would or hoped it would, the bottom line is this: you're 4-2. And I think most everyone with reasonable expectations coming in would have taken that. You're just condensed overall thoughts in the first half. If you wanted to give it a grade, how would you grade the first half? Just overall thoughts as we reflect on the first half and gear up for a very important next 6 games.
I'd give it about a C+, B-. In record wise, you'd probably go a little higher than that because at the beginning of the year, you say 4-2. Well, shoot, that means you're going to beat Arkansas, Georgia, or Kentucky. And 2 of those games are on the road. Kentucky's owned you. Arkansas was an off-season darling, and Georgia's Georgia. So, you take that, right? But I think, there have been some ugly moments, like Shane Beamer said. It's not always been pretty. But the way this team competes, the way they've not given up, the way they've hung in there, the special teams is dynamite right now. It looks like the defense is coming on, and the offense had probably their best half against a top, I believe, a top 20 defense. I think Kentucky's 20th in total defense in the country. So, they put 17 on the board, man. That's good. I think it's coming on. So, we'll see what happens for the rest of the year. But all in all, you have to be satisfied with it. And then looking ahead, there's about 7 teams in the SEC: Kentucky, Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, Florida, Missouri, Texas A&M. They're all very similar at this point. Auburn's probably at the bottom end of it, but they're all kind of teams that'll play close games, hang in the balance. And you have to believe that the Gamecocks now, with this win and with the improvement and a 3-game win streak, will be in position to have the confidence to take their share of these games moving forward.
JC, again, I appreciate you taking the time, man. Always a pleasure. Obviously going to be really fun next week, and we're talking about a pivotal home game under the lights at Williams-Brice Stadium when the Gamecocks take on Texas A&M again. We'll dive into that more next Thursday. He's on every Thursday at 1:15 until, and of course, check out JC and Phil Inside the Gamecocks 11 to 1, right? Monday through Friday. You guys can catch their show. JC, I appreciate you taking the time, man. Always a pleasure. We'll talk next week.
Thanks. Sorry I got to get out early, but we'll be back for the full time next week.
Oh, for sure. Appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Chris.
Again, JC Sherbert with some stuff to handle, but I thought a very great segment there, and I always appreciate JC taking the time. So he says C+, B-. I think that's fair. You guys will know my grade next week, but I think that's a very fair grade for the first half of the season. Guys, we are going to jump into a break. It'll be the final break of the day, though. More of your questions, comments, calls, and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Guys, we will take no more breaks today. Next 20 minutes or so. Your questions, comments, and calls. We'd love to hear from you all. Lady Bree is active in the chat. Says you don't attract the 4 and 5 stars of the system that's not going to win championships. If y'all just want winning seasons and you're going to beat Clemson more often than sure. Lady Bree says, point being, Spencer and Reno had a conversation about the system, and Reno still wants to come, but everybody twisted his words to suit their argument to fire Sat. I would ask you the question, Lady Bree. It sounds like you are a Marcus Satterfield defender, a Marcus Satterfield stan. That's what it sounds like. And I tell you this, Lady Bree, whether you think that scheme and that system is the greatest you've ever seen, whether you think Marcus Satterfield's reincarnated Steve Spurrier, if this offense finishes, I don't know, what is it right now? Somebody said 77th. If this offense finishes 77th total offense, I don't give a damn what you think. Marcus Satterfield needs to go. So, you know, I don't care who the OC is. I've said that many times. I don't care who the OC is, the quarterback, the head coach. We just want results. So, you know. And Lady Bree, I did not watch your video. Believe it or not, I'm busy as hell. I don't have a whole lot of time to watch a whole lot of videos. I will get on it. Anyways, I don't have any personal vendetta against Marcus Satterfield. I just, you know, interesting. The stats are what they are. You know what I mean? This is a statistics driven game. So if the offense finishes 75th in the country, I don't know. There's not going to be a whole lot of defense, you know what I mean, for Sat's return. So my guy Chase in the TDC Questions channel, Chase, my bad. So whenever I have JC on or a guest on, I actually minimize the Big Cock Club Discord. But I did ask JC via text right after he got off about did he feel like maybe there was a different voice in the second half, calling plays, giving input even. He said, I saw Kitchens in the huddle more in the second half through the binoculars. He was coaching a lot while Sat was off to the side. Haven't been in any other games to know if that is normal or not. So, who knows? Run with that rumor. Go crazy with it if you want. But, yeah. I mean, you would listen. You would hope that they're using a guy like Freddie Kitchens. If they're not going to take his input, what's the point of having him on the staff? I mean, I kind of feel like it's one of those like, well, no, duh. They should get his input. He's on staff to give input, is he not? I mean, if you're not going to take his input, don't even have him on staff. So I think it's going too far. I think it's going too far to say that somebody else was calling the plays. But maybe they were taking Freddie Kitchens' input more into consideration in the second half. I don't know. I don't know. Listen, I know that almost every team dislikes their offensive coordinator. Everybody thinks they can do a better job. I would just say, with all the pieces you added, again, guys, I think it's going to be pretty clear when the dust settles at the end of the season. I think it'll be pretty clear whether Marcus Satterfield should return or should not return. And yeah, Doc Graybeard, there's no way. And listen, Shane Beamer doesn't owe it to us to tell us. He doesn't. That's something you just keep it internal. That's something just keep internal. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure if he asks, he's going to say, "Listen, Marcus Satterfield's our offensive coordinator." That's it. I mean, you know what I mean. So, that's why I didn't ask. That's why I didn't ask JC the question, because we had limited time, and I was like, I'd rather ask him something that we actually saw in the game or we know happened versus. Lady Bree, stats are meaningless until the end of the year once everyone has played everyone. Analytics work much different in MLB where you have 160 games. Yeah, I mean, Lady Bree, again, my prediction is I think end of year when the dust settles, it will be evident that it is the correct decision to to move on. My apologies, Chuck McIntosh. I totally forgot. I did close up the phone lines after JC Sherbert. Here we go. Phone lines are now open. I apologize for that. Thank you for saying something. 843-790-3377. You're more than welcome to call in. The phone lines are now open. Let's see. In the meantime, we'll get in. Craig Godwin, this system doesn't win championships when you lose 3-6 or 3-6 because they can't pick it up. Cody Branch, do you think Bryce Young plays Saturday, or do you think it's Bama's backup? I think Bama's probably going to go with the backup. I don't know, though. I mean, I'm not to the A&M program. Let's jump to the phone lines. Robbie, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I am doing well. Appreciate you asking. What's going on?
I just wanted to say that at the end of the day, yes, there are going to be people that are going to want Satterfield to either get fired or be retained. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about what we want, okay? Because Beamer, at the end of the day, is going to make the best decision possible. And I do believe that the writing is on the wall and Satterfield will be let go at the end of the season. Bowl game or no bowl game, he'll be let go at the end of the season.
I mean, I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, if I had to make a prediction right now, I would probably say the same thing. I would say the same thing, no doubt. I think, I think the win over Kentucky's great, and I've been positive all week, obviously, and I think you should. I think you should celebrate the W, but again, I think, you look at that win through a critical eye, and yeah, I think we still have issues offensively. I think we'll probably still sputter at times in the second half. I think sputter's putting it kindly. That's a great way. If I had to pick one word to describe our offense, sputter is a good one. Sputter. like describe this offense in one word. Sputter. We sputter. Dilly dally's probably another. Dilly dally's probably another good one. We dilly dally around. Like those are good adjectives to describe the offense. Yeah, and we'll probably do that the rest of the year. Confident in saying that.
Okay, that right there literally made my day. Holy crap, that made my day right there.
Yeah, we dilly dally and we sputter. I think that's a great way to put it.
I've never heard you use either one of those two words, and that right there made my day.
Well, I'm glad I could do that, Robbie. I'm glad I could do that for you.
But and I don't care, right? How Satterfield can say this till he's blue in the face like a Smurf, that the offense that we're running is very complex. How complex can it be? You're running freaking routes, for God's sake. And there's only so many routes you can run without the possibility of running out of bounds, okay? So how complex can this really be? A receiver's job is simple. You either block or you catch the football. Same with a running back. You either get handed the ball or the quarterback throws the ball to you and you run with the football. There's only so many options.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest complaints, man, is the complexities of the offense. So, I mean, listen, that's the thing about my show. I don't come on here pretending to be some god of football, like I'm some X's and O's. I mean, I know the game, but I'm not sitting here watching. I'm not doing film study 24/7, 365. But I can tell you when an offense looks like shit. I mean, I mean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, when you're watching on a week in, week out basis, and you hear Dante Reno talking about it, you hear the announcers on SEC Network talking about how complex the offense is. Satterfield himself has said it. I don't know. I'm just kind of going off of what I'm seeing and hearing, and I'm just a reflection of what sort of the common narrative is. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't give a damn if the offense is easy. It's just not being executed at the level that we'd like to see. You know, so again, I don't have to be a chef to tell you if the food tastes like shit. I don't have to be a master chef. I mean,
yeah. And I will say this, right? This goes with like any sport, okay? Especially football, okay? People show up to the games for the offense, right? To watch the offense do its thing, take care of business, and they know that the defense is supposed to do their job, right? The defense's job, stop the opponent. The offense's job, score points and look good doing it, and they have not been really doing that at all this year. Now, our defense has played, honestly, especially against Kentucky, we played better than I thought we were going to play, okay, on the defensive side of the ball. Because I thought to myself, if Rodriguez gets it going, we're screwed. And I told you during the week, if we can somehow contain Rodriguez and make that freshman sit in the pocket or make him run if he's not comfortable with running, we will have a chance at beating Kentucky, and that's literally what happened. We bottled up Rodriguez, didn't really give him a lot of big runs, and took care of business and got to the quarterback often and rattled him a little bit and beat Kentucky for the first time in forever.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly from that Kentucky game. I mean, I think that's when I take away like my top positive, it is the way that our defensive line played and stopping the run, slowing down the run.
Yeah.
Because that's just something we hadn't really seen us do to this point. So, if you can carry that, if you can carry that defense, you got a great shot. If you can slow down the run game, again, we've talked about it so much. Why can we not stop the run? If you can stop the run the way you did against Kentucky, you're going to have, and it's going to get tougher, no doubt. But I mean, you got a really great chance to have success. So, and I think you're going to need it. Listen, I don't, I'm really hoping that this offensive unit can bottle up whatever they did in the second half, whether it be there were some play call adjustments, whether it be the way they played was more brisk, as JC pointed out, whether the execution was just that much better. You hope they can bottle that up and carry that through the rest of the way. I tend to think, again, this is still going to be an offense that sputters, that dilly-dallies around, and we're going to need the defense to, I don't see us winning a lot of 41-38 kind of games. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to have to win sort of the way we did against Kentucky where, defensively we got to be able to hold our own, have a standout night, and just kind of hope our offense can do enough. I'm not saying we're not going to have a good game offensively the rest of the year. I'm just saying that, like I look at Texas A&M, right. I don't think we're going out there and going to beat them 38-35. Like we need to play in a lower scoring type of game,
right?
And, just hope the offense can do enough, to hold up.
If we wind up having to play catch up against A&M, then that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, we what's unfortunate though is we've just shown nothing. That my buddy Chris Marler was talking about it. Obviously, that A&M gets off to slow starts. Like, bro, so do we. Painfully slow. And I know we got off to a hot start against Kentucky, but I mean that was kind of a gift that fell in our lap. And outside of that, you did nothing. So, I don't know that there's a solution for it. I really don't. Which is crazy. And you talk about Marcus Satterfield, that like you would really feel like that first drive should be your best one. I mean, it's your best plays. You got it scripted. Everybody's on the same page. And I don't know, man.
Your first drive needs to set the tone for the remainder of the game. It needs to show your opponent, like, we're not messing around here. We're going to freaking move the ball on you, whether you want us to or not, come Hades or high water. Okay, we're going to move the football. We're going to figure out ways to move the football, And if you stop one thing, we're going to figure out another way to move the football. It's that simple. Because we're going to have times where we're going to have to pass the football, and we're going to have times where we're going to need to run the football. But if we can figure out a way to do both to the point to where they have no idea what the heck we're doing, that's a good thing.
That would indeed be a good thing.
And with the way Marshawn Lloyd has been running the football, I'd say keep feeding him till the team proves otherwise that they could stop him. Because right now he is absolutely just running running how we expected him to be his freshman year. Even though yes, he was hurt, but he is playing very, very well and running very well, reading blocks very well, and looking like the Marshawn Lloyd that we expected him to be, at least at the midway point.
Yeah, that was the best I've ever seen Marshawn look in that last game against Kentucky. So, yeah, I think he needs to be the focal point of the offense. It all needs to run through him. Yeah, I mean, he looks incredible. So I'd say more Marshawn Lloyd, feed Marshawn on a week-in, week-out basis. Robbie, always a pleasure, my guy. Appreciate you calling in.
All right, buddy. You have a good one. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, man. You too.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. Robbie Davis. Guys, we got about 7 minutes taking your questions, comments, calls. Let's keep it rolling. 843-790-3377. And I'll just say this, by the way, because I see folks continuing on. Who says the offense is complex? Again, we're not just making this up out of thin air. I mean, I've heard Satterfield say it. I've heard Rattler say it. People have said it. Here we go. Chuck, what's up, man? How are you?
People have said it. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? What's going on?
Good. I got a question, or basically a statement. Today, yesterday, and you said it last week as well, that you didn't feel like Rattler would ever be benched. And I don't understand that comment. If you go back to the Spurrier days, he benched Blake Mitchell, who he said was one of the most accurate quarterbacks he had ever coached, for a wide receiver, Savell Newton, who had played high school quarterback. And it was a great change because we weren't able to block up front. If you go back to when he was at Florida, he had a quarterback, I can't remember his name, Shane something, that he benched for Danny Werfel, who was one of the top-rated quarterbacks in the country. And then you go back to Garcia and Connor Shaw. He did the same thing. Now, I'm not saying that I want Rattler bench. What I'm saying is Rattler is not playing up to the level that we expected. And if he was playing at that level with the running game that we have, then yes, we should win the next 4 football games. I truly believe that. Before the season started, you said that our defense would probably keep us in every single game. Our defense steps up and we're throwing the ball like we should, then I don't see why we can't win those football games. Now, if all we're going to do is throw swing passes and screens and this and that, then I say put in a running quarterback. I don't know who it is, but you put somebody in there that can move the ball down the field, make their safeties come up, get you some one-on-ones, and hit them. You got Marshawn Lloyd, you got CBS, you put a running quarterback back there. Maybe that's what we should be doing.
I mean, I don't think you're totally off base there with regards to what we've seen from Sat's offense, and what they want to do. I think my comment more so, number one, Shane Beamer is not Steve Spurrier. So there aren't many coaches that can get away with changing out quarterbacks the way he did, or that would have the guts in the first place to do it the way he did. But the other thing is, I mean, they asked Beamer after the Kentucky game about, did you even consider changing QBs? And Beamer said, absolutely not. So I just, as a prediction, I don't think they're going to bench Rattler. Like, I think they brought him in here to be the starting quarterback. I think he'd have to play so poorly. I just don't see it happen. Like, I don't think Rattler's going to play that poorly. He might not be great, but I don't know. It surprised me.
It goes back to the interception Saturday to Stogner.
Right.
If he throws that ball correctly, that's a touchdown. Stogner catches it in stride instead of having to stop and make a jump ball that he loses. It's like I don't understand. If you're struggling at the quarterback position, I mean, I remember the first game Garcia played in when he got tackled by an LSU, by the referee.
Mhm.
You know, because I think Spurrier played 3 quarterbacks that day because he was just trying to get somebody who could spark something. You know, and I think when you just ride it out and you're just going to live or die by this one man, that's not a very good coaching decision, in my opinion. Sometimes you have to go out there and take a risk. Maybe somebody lights a fire under that offense and gets it moving. You figure the touchdown pass he threw this past week was a screen pass.
Yeah.
That one wasn't even thrown down the field.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just.
I mean, again, to your point, you make
know.
you make a great point. I'm sure you heard me say this, I believe, last week that, you know, my scorching hot take, if you will, was that if that's going to be the offense, like you mentioned, screen, swing passes, and trying to be dynamic in the run game, yeah, I could argue Luke Doty or Dak Joyner is a better fit for the offense than Spencer Rattler is. I mean, no doubt. So, but I just, again, I'm not giving that projection that Rattler won't be benched because it's just a prediction. You know what I mean? Like I told you, I just want to win games. I don't care who's at QB, but I find it hard to believe that they brought Rattler in here, that I don't want to say they sold out to get him from Oklahoma. I understand the story that Stogner's the one that got him here, but you think Carolina didn't try to get him here? They didn't throw him some sort of NIL bag? I can guarantee you they did. So,
I wanted him as bad as everybody else
right,
did.
Right. So, I mean, I'd be, because I think, here's what I think happens too. You have to think about this too. You bench Rattler. Your hope is that in benching him, a guy like Doty, Joyner, Davis, whoever's going to come in, they're going to play better than he was playing, which would mean that Rattler's not going to see the field again. Well, Rattler's out. Yeah. Rattler's transferring. He ain't coming back. You see what I'm saying? So it's just a thing where if you make that decision, you better be sure. You better be sure.
I agree.
I
agree. I'm like you though. I want to win, and you know, I seen a post that Savell Newton put on there the other day that said this offense has got so much talent all the way across the board on wide receivers and running backs, and the only thing I see where we're struggling is truly at quarterback and some on the offensive line, but the offensive line has played a whole lot better. And I mean, when you throw 8 picks, and I know they're not all on you, but when you throw 8 and you have the lowest QBR in the SEC, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And maybe it is on Satterfield. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you make great points. I mean, Spencer Rattler needs to play better. There is no question. There's no question. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking my call, and I hope you have a good day.
Chuck, no, seriously, thank you for the call, my friend. Anytime.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, take care. Great stuff, guys. We've hit 2:00. I will just say again on a final note that I just don't see Spencer Rattler getting benched. I don't. And I see somebody commenting about don't bench Rattler, rotate Joyner or Doty in the rotation. I would ask you, do you really think that's going to happen? I mean, again, I love Shane Beamer, but he ain't Steve Spurrier, man. There's few coaches that can get away with that. Because you're assuming that if they did that, it would work. Well, what if it didn't? And then you're looked at as like you're truly a buffoon, right? You can't. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 0. I know what Steve Spurrier did. He's Steve Spurrier. It's truly, as DGD saying, it's a recipe for disaster. I don't think you're going to see it happen. On that note, guys, hey, thank you all so much. Appreciate you all tuning in. Stay tuned. All the content, of course, content bleeding out the eyeballs. Again, those all tuned in via podcast version. Thank you. Go like the show, rate the show, subscribe to the show. Leave us 5 stars. Also, it helps the show. No podcast tomorrow, of course, on the Spurs Up show, like the normal podcast, if you will. But the Daily Crow will air as normal tomorrow, noon to 2. I want to say thank you to those that called in. Thank you to those that commented. Thank you to JC Sherbert for taking the time to chat. And again, guys, we're out of here. Appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Thursday. And we will talk to you all tomorrow.